Rick is sprinting after a school bus, already running extremely late. Somehow, he manages to stop it and jump aboard just in time. But once inside, he quickly realizes nobody wants him sitting near them. The harsh reality is simple: most students can't stand him. With nowhere else to go, Rick sits beside the only person who even talks to him, his friend Trey. A few rows ahead sits a girl named Jill, the girl Rick has secretly liked for a long time. He keeps glancing at her over and over, completely distracted by her beauty. Trey notices and immediately tells Rick to stop dreaming, because someone like Jill would never fall for him. But Rick can't stop staring at her anyway. Not long after, the school arrives at a massive animal research facility where students are supposed to observe rare creatures. Trying once again to impress Jill, Rick confidently walks up to her and claims he's an amazing photographer who can take incredible pictures of her. The problem is photography is strictly forbidden there. Rick ignores the rules and secretly snaps a photo of a nearby bird beside Jill. The instant the camera flash goes off, disaster strikes. The bird suddenly bursts into flames. Nobody understands what caused it, and no one realizes Rick's flash triggered the accident. Panicking, Rick desperately tries to put the fire out, stomping around helplessly, but the burning bird slips away and crashes directly onto Lawrence, Jill's aggressive boyfriend. Enraged, Lawrence rushes toward Rick, ready to attack him. But before he can, a man named Uncle Lou appears. Lou happens to be one of the wealthy investors funding the research center. He asks Rick about his family and reveals he once knew Rick's father. Rick sadly explains that both of his parents died years ago and now he lives with his aunt and uncle. Lou feels sympathy for him and walks away. The second Lou leaves, Lawrence immediately starts bullying Rick again. He shoves him so hard that Rick falls straight into a pile of animal waste. Humiliated and disgusted, Rick tries cleaning himself off with a nearby liquid, assuming it's water. Huge mistake. The liquid is actually a chemical designed to attract male animals. Within moments, animals begin swarming him from every direction. Creatures start climbing all over his body while everyone nearby bursts into laughter. Rick is completely humiliated in front of everyone, especially Jill. During all the chaos, a dragonfly suddenly bites Rick, but he barely notices because animals continue piling onto him. People stand around in shock watching the bizarre scene unfold. Even Trey doesn't help. Instead, he records everything on his phone, planning to upload the embarrassing footage online for views and money. Eventually, the trip ends and everyone heads home. Rick feels exhausted, weak, and completely drained. Once home, his uncle casually asks him to feed the fish. But the moment Rick approaches the aquarium, he suddenly vomits into it. Barely able to stay awake, he drags himself to his bedroom and collapses onto the bed. Meanwhile, Uncle Lou is inside a secret laboratory with several scientists. It's revealed that Lou suffers from a deadly illness and is slowly dying. For years, he and his team have been developing an experimental machine they believe could cure him. One of the doctors warns Lou that the machine is unfinished and dangerous, but Lou refuses to wait and orders them to activate it immediately. Reluctantly, the scientists switch the machine on while Lou sits inside it. At first, everything seems normal. Then suddenly, the machine violently explodes. The scientists immediately laugh, assuming the experiment failed miserably. One scientist even mocks Lou directly. But then something horrifying happens. Lou grabs the scientist and instantly drains all the energy from his body. The man collapses dead within seconds. That's when Lou realizes the machine actually worked. He discovers he can now survive his illness by absorbing life energy from other people. At the same time, Rick is still asleep at home. Later that day, his school hosts its annual event, featuring famous scientist Stephen Hawking as the guest speaker. Hawking delivers an inspiring speech about overcoming challenges and refusing to give up despite his disabilities. He encourages students to stay strong and keep moving forward no matter how difficult life becomes. But Rick's attention remains focused on Jill. While attempting to impress her again, Rick accidentally bumps into Lawrence. Another confrontation begins, and during the chaos Rick's hand suddenly gets stuck inside a sink. When he finally yanks it free, the entire sink rips off and flies directly into Lawrence. Now furious beyond control, Lawrence chases Rick through the school. While running away, Rick crashes into a large man. As he pushes himself away, his hands somehow stick to the man's body. When Rick finally breaks free, the man's clothes come off with him, leaving everyone stunned. At this point, it's obvious something unnatural is happening to Rick. Confused and overwhelmed, Rick steps outside trying to understand what's going on. He begins feeling different, as if something inside him has changed forever. To test his strange new abilities, he places his hands against a nearby wall and starts climbing upward effortlessly like an insect. That's when he realizes the impossible truth: he now has superpowers. Nearby, a woman is walking her dog when a speeding truck suddenly loses control and races toward her. Without hesitation, Rick leaps forward, shoving the woman out of harm's way while taking the full impact himself. The truck crashes directly into Rick. Shockingly, Rick walks away completely unharmed while the truck itself is destroyed. Everyone nearby stares in disbelief. But the moment quickly turns tragic. Rick realizes the woman he saved accidentally fell into a dangerous cutting machine during the rescue attempt and died instantly. Disturbed by everything happening, Rick returns home and tells his aunt and uncle that the dragonfly bite may have given him powers. To test this theory, his uncle suddenly attacks him with a knife. The blade bends against Rick's skin without causing even a tiny cut. That confirms it. Rick truly has superhuman abilities. Soon after, Rick remembers the tragic night his parents died. Years earlier, while returning home together, they were attacked by robbers. During the struggle, Rick accidentally caused the deaths of his own parents. Before dying, his father handed him a special ring, a ring Rick still carries to this day. Filled with guilt, Rick throws the ring away, but strangely, it somehow returns back to him. Just then, Jill arrives and tells Rick she's unhappy with Lawrence and would rather date him instead. Before Rick can react, Lawrence pulls up in an expensive sports car. Jill admires the car and says she wishes Rick owned one so they could drive around together. She then leaves with Lawrence, leaving Rick staring sadly at his broken bicycle. Later, Rick searches online for a mysterious professor who runs a special academy for people with extraordinary powers. Hoping to finally understand himself, Rick decides to seek him out. The next day, Rick visits a bank with his aunt and uncle because he plans to take out a loan to buy a sports car. Suddenly, armed robbers storm the bank. Amid the panic, Rick helps his aunt escape while the robbers struggle to open the bank doors. Strangely enough, Rick accidentally ends up helping the criminals escape. Outside the bank, Rick notices a crowd gathered around a performing monkey. But before he can pay attention, he hears his uncle crying out in pain. Medical workers quickly arrive and rush his uncle to the hospital. Elsewhere, Uncle Lou begins feeling weak again. Desperate to survive, he drains another victim of their energy, instantly killing them before hiding the body. Rick eventually visits his uncle in the hospital, then finally decides to meet Professor Xavier. Xavier introduces Rick to a secret academy filled with young people possessing incredible powers of their own. Rick watches students performing impossible abilities everywhere he looks. Professor Xavier then introduces Rick to his wife and child. At first, their son appears to be nothing more than a doll, but suddenly the child reveals powerful abilities and throws Xavier across the room using telekinesis. Mrs. Xavier tells Rick that if he wants to become a real superhero, he first needs a proper costume. Inspired, Rick designs a green superhero suit featuring a dragonfly symbol to honor the creature that changed his life forever. Wearing the costume for the first time, Rick climbs onto a rooftop where another superhero is already hanging out. The hero claims the rooftop as his personal spot, but Rick casually suggests they simply share it. The following morning, Rick attends a job interview hoping to earn money. He even shows photos of himself wearing the superhero costume, believing it might impress the interviewer. Unfortunately, the HR manager refuses to hire him. Suddenly, news breaks that a university is under attack. Realizing it's his own university, Rick immediately rushes off in secret. At the university, Uncle Lou arrives fully transformed into a terrifying supervillain wearing a metallic suit. His horrifying plan is to drain blood from young people and turn it into a serum capable of keeping him alive forever. Rick appears in costume, leading to their first major battle. The two clash violently as Lou launches deadly blades at him. Luckily, Rick's suit protects him from serious damage. Eventually Lou realizes Rick is stronger than expected and escapes. Jill witnesses the battle and becomes fascinated by the mysterious Dragonfly superhero, completely unaware it's actually Rick beneath the mask. Later that night, Jill leaves a theater while Rick nervously follows behind trying to ask her out. He's too shy to speak properly, so Jill eventually admits she was hoping he would invite her on a date. Rick freezes up and says nothing, frustrating her enough to walk away disappointed. Moments later, a group of thugs begins following Jill through the streets. Before they can harm her, Rick appears once again in his superhero identity and easily defeats them. Jill becomes even more impressed with the Dragonfly hero who has now saved her twice. Meanwhile, Uncle Lou discovers something terrifying. If he drains the energy of 47,000 people using his machine, he can become completely immortal. Without hesitation, he decides that's exactly what he's going to do. Later, Jill visits Rick's home for dinner. During the meal, she admits she has strong feelings for the Dragonfly superhero. Lawrence eventually arrives with Uncle Lou, while Rick secretly sneaks upstairs still wearing his costume. Lou suddenly enters Rick's room, suspicious that Rick may actually be the superhero. Rick barely manages to avoid being exposed while Lou searches around carefully. Eventually Lou leaves, still uncertain. Back downstairs, Lou notices an injury on Rick's hand. Rick lies and says he got into a random fight, but Lou instantly recognizes the wound as one caused during their earlier battle. He now knows Rick is the Dragonfly hero. Soon afterward, Lou returns in full villain form and attacks. Rick tries fighting back but gets knocked unconscious. During the attack, Lou murders Rick's aunt. Devastated, Rick rushes to the hospital to tell his uncle what happened. Doctors warn him not to reveal shocking news because his uncle's condition is fragile. Unfortunately, another doctor accidentally reveals the truth anyway, crushing Rick's uncle emotionally. The next day, the funeral takes place. Rick's uncle is so heartbroken he nearly lies down inside the coffin beside his wife. In a bizarre accident, her body eventually rolls into nearby flames and burns in front of everyone attending. Days later, Rick falls into depression, blaming himself for everything. That's when his uncle gives him the special ring from his father and reminds him who he truly is. He tells Rick that heroes exist to save people and that a dangerous villain plans to murder thousands unless Rick stops him. Soon, a news report announces a huge convention happening downtown. Rick and the others immediately realize that's where the villain will strike next. At the convention, Uncle Lou tricks Rick into attacking an innocent monk by falsely claiming the monk is the real villain. While Rick causes chaos, Lou escapes and transforms into his true form. Lou then attacks Rick directly, collapsing the entire roof onto him. Rick survives but becomes trapped beneath the wreckage. Lou begins launching deadly blades toward him, intending to finish him off once and for all. Before the blades hit, Jill jumps in front of Rick and takes the attack herself because she has fallen in love with the Dragonfly hero. Enraged, Rick carries Jill to the rooftop where Lou has activated the machine and started draining life energy from the crowd. Using the same machine, Rick manages to restore Jill's life. But there's almost no time left. Lou is only seconds away from becoming immortal. Ignoring the attacks flying toward him, Rick charges forward with everything he has left and finally destroys the machine in a massive explosion that kills Lou as well. Rick and Jill fall together from the rooftop. As they fall through the air, Jill notices the ring on Rick's finger, the exact same ring Rick always wore. And in that moment, she finally realizes the truth. The Dragonfly superhero was Rick all along. This movie name is Dragonfly Man, and if you found this movie recap interesting, kindly comment what you like about this movie in the comments and subscribe to Cinematic Recap for more movie recaps like this.